Our pals at Warner Brothers sent me the 4K Blu-ray of Aquaman to review, and I was very glad that they did because I wanted to see if what I could recall from the fever dream of this movie was accurate. I saw this obviously in December when it came out with Johnny Millennium, and we reviewed it for Film Fury, and we had a good time. We saw it in IMAX on the biggest screen you could possibly think of, and it was just massive, and it just blew our minds. We walked out and our heads were like, poosh. And so I wanted to see this on my 4K TV, and I wanted to see the visuals again and try to make a little bit more sense of the narrative because there was so much stuff in this movie. And I got to tell you that this is one of those showpiece discs. This is one where if you have a great 4K Blu-ray machine and you have a great television and a good sound system,
I already got one of those,
and a friend or two that you want to impress, this is one of those kinds of movies, okay? Because there is beautiful CG affected scene after beautiful CG affected scene all the way through this thing. Honestly, I said it at the time and I still feel that it's like 5 movies crammed into here. It's like a little Lord of the Rings, it's like a little Star Wars, it's a little Harry Potter. I mean, anything you can imagine from the fantasy realm, of course, superhero movies, and it's all squished into this tale that is fun. It's fun as hell. And honestly, on second viewing, I appreciate it even more.
That was awesome.
That's kind of what happened with me when I saw the Justice League 4K Blu-ray, which I know is not everybody's cup of tea, but I had a good time watching that again. And I had a better time watching Aquaman again because I could kind of see a little bit more into what James Wan was developing. And clearly what he had more than anything is Warner Brothers as a studio saying, whatever you need, James, you got it. Because so much money is on screen, it's not even funny. They shot it in Australia, and as you'll discover in the behind the scenes, which there is copious amounts of, James Wan and his crew would build buildings, like a lighthouse or a bar. If they need them, they could do it. If they need to look like somewhere in Maine or somewhere in the eastern coast of America, but they're shooting in the south of Australia, they'll just build a building if they need it. And the money just came to them and they just built a building, or they built a sunken ship and they could have a battle in a ship that would break apart in a million pieces. And stunt people were flying all over the place. And of course they had to create the illusion of everybody being underwater. So they created these rigs, they called them the tuning forks, where they strapped Aquaman and all of his other cast members to, and they just got used to moving and just sort of hanging off of them and being able to converse and hitting their marks and all that stuff. Dolph Lundgren talks about trying to just shake the hand of Patrick Wilson at one point in the movie, and they did 50 takes of him just coming into frame properly and shaking his hand properly, but because it was all new motion, it took him a long time. All of that stuff was extraordinary.
I could have just peed on it.
But here is the thing. I have entered that magic phase where my 7-year-old daughter has started to watch some of these superhero movies with me. The first one that she really sat down to watch was The Avengers of Age of Ultron. And we started watching that movie because we were in a restaurant in Mexico, and it was on one of the television sets in the background, and she was dumbfounded and awestruck. And I said, it was all in Spanish, but she wanted to watch more of it. So we watched more of it when we got back to the hotel, and she loved it. And then I thought, maybe she's going to like Aquaman. And at first she said, no. I'm letting her make the choice. At first she said, no. But then she could hear the whole house shaking because I had everything cranked, because as you do, when you're watching a movie like this, everything's cranked. The whole house is shaking. She's like, what is happening? And she was a little bit nervous. And then she slowly made her way downstairs. And she watched Nicole Kidman kick some butt. And then she saw Aquaman train and become a superhero and a king and fight, and saw him battle somebody. I'm not going to spoil too much, the Ocean Master. And then some bad things happened to Aquaman. I saw her start crying. She started tearing up. And it wasn't because she was nervous for her. It was because she felt empathy for Aquaman. And I thought that was wonderful, but the thing that just drove it over the top for me watching this movie with my kid is there's this cheesy little love scene, which I never really liked, this forced chemistry between Amber Heard and Jason Momoa. They're in Sicily, and they have this epic fight scene, but before that they have this little sort of like music video love sequence, and they're talking in front of a fountain, and Aquaman gives Mera a coin to throw in the fountain. Mera gives it to a little girl. The little girl throws it in, and then Mera creates these magical water dolphins as a little show for her. And my kid's face was like this. And it was so honest, and she had such a smile. I can't even do it properly, but it just gave me chills watching my kid watch that moment and realizing, I think, in a profound way, how magic movies can be. And I'm not saying this is the best movie in the world, but it's really ridiculously fun. And it's really fun when you see it with somebody that isn't as spoiled as I am, or we are, collectively. You know, especially if we've been watching movies for the last 10, 15 years where, you know, every digital whim is gifted to us, and we've seen superheroes do everything extraordinary.
Permission to come aboard.
You know what? Aquaman's an impossibility. That's the thing that I really recognize about it, is like, how the hell did they make Aquaman cool? How did they make Aquaman? How did they find James Wan to just go off and do this? You know, like, he was making indie horror movies, and now he has made one of the biggest movies I've ever seen. And I've seen every big movie, and this movie is insane. And certainly when you watch it in crystal clear 4K, you can see some of the edging. You can see how the digital compositing is sort of coming together, and you can feel artists and engineers all around the movie kind of figure out the math of it to put it together to kind of fool our eyes into making us believe that we're floating through Atlantis. But it's also pretty easy to scrub all that away and just be wowed by its gorgeousness and its ambitious design ideas, and its full-on commitment from everybody involved. It was clearly a long shoot and an extraordinarily difficult post-production process, and it's a hell of a 4K Blu-ray.
Oh, yeah, totally.
I really encourage you to watch this with somebody that has fresh eyes on all of these superhero things. I think you're going to be super entertained watching them watch this, just like I was. But Aquaman is a great pickup for your 4K Blu-ray collection. I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10.